Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
All right, welcome back to podcast 35 of 2019. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can tweet me at OBKiev or tweet us at The Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / The Odds Breakers. Can football come soon enough? My God, does it get slow after the All-Star break. Every single day, we look at these lines, these futures, and these season win totals, and just can't wait for all of our bets to come into fruition. Baseball can only hold us down long enough, and I got to tell you, I can't remember me being this excited for a football season. We have a great show for you today. We are getting into fantasy football with Dynasty. He's back, the fantasy champion, and he's going to talk to us about, well, we're actually both going to talk about our top 24 draft rankings. We're going to get into running back head-to-head matchups and competitions to not only make the team, but for carries throughout the year. I think this podcast is going to be very valuable to some people out there because most of them just talk about where they have people ranked in the draft. We're going to talk about share. We're going to talk about running backs actually having the share of the ball and the opportunities and who they have to beat out in order to be second, third, fourth on the depth chart. We're also going to talk about a fantasy football dynasty rookie draft. A little bit on the offense and a little bit on the defense. There's some people out there with dynasty leagues, saving that towards the end because not everybody's in a dynasty league, but you might be quite interested to see where some of these rookies rank among the others. Very excited about that. And then we have Cub Fan Danny back to talk about UFC 240 this weekend. Huge card. We have Chris Cyborg fighting Felicia Spencer. We have Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar. Absolutely huge card for UFC 240. Very excited to get into that. Just to let you know, we've been giving out free picks since late in the NBA playoffs. Most of these are baseball for free subscriber picks. Some of them are just free picks for everybody on the Odds Breakers. And we are 15-6. So not a ton of plays. But when I find a good one for free, I've just been hitting them. So I've been hitting them on a premium rate. But literally having a good summer doing that. So very happy. And if you don't subscribe to the Odds Breakers for free, just become a free member, you're missing out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com and do that. This episode is being sponsored by mybookie.ag for a 50% sign-up bonus. Please visit MyBookie. Use the promo code TheOddsBreakers. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out and sponsor the podcast, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, hit shop, and become a member for $12.99 a month. It's still $12.99 through mid-August. You can become a member and get my premium picks before the line moves, which we've been giving out all summer for futures and season win totals. For $2 more, you can have all that and become a patron subscriber. Get the podcast a little early. If nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. And like I was just saying, you can become a free member on the Odds Breakers and get a few picks as well. So without further ado, let's get into a little fantasy football with my man, D Nasty.
Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it. No. Show you the money.
Not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell that shit.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
All right, and now I am extremely excited to welcome back a man that we haven't had on since the end of last year, and that is because he is our fantasy football master, Mr. D Nasty. You can tweet him at D Nasty Fantasy. How you doing, Dave?
Good to be back. I'm excited for some football.
My man, when we talked about what we wanted to do with the podcast, I loved what you said about having position battles. Not too many podcasts have that, and it's great for our listeners to know, who's winning out in second string, third string, who's going to get the majority of the carries, if it's going to be a close split. I think there's a lot of value that could be had from this discussion, and I found a lot of stuff that was great for myself too. Just looking at these position battles. Normally, I kind of we'll look at that throughout the year and before, but never into the depth that we did. So I'm really happy you had that idea, my man.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, before we do that, let's give the audience an actual just kind of rundown of our first 2 rounds in fantasy football, and just kind of talk about maybe if you moved up a guy from the average rating or if you moved down a guy from the average rating. I'll go first here. So I agree with the consensus on pretty much the first 8 picks here. I have Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, Devontae Adams, all, that seems kind of like a consensus right there. And then the next person I actually have is David Johnson. I moved him up a little bit, and I had to jump Melvin Gordon because of this. And Melvin Gordon has that, holdout issue. And, we don't know what's going to happen with that. And so it's a slight downgrade. We both know Melvin Gordon's character. I mean, he went to the University of Wisconsin, which is our favorite school, but he's a great guy from Kenosha. And we think that he's going to play. But it's still something to be worried about. And if his agents hold strong, there could be I would say maybe about 2 to 4 games he could hold out and come back. I don't think he's going to pull out a Lav Bell or anything.
Yeah, I know. Hope not.
Yeah, you got to hope not. And whoever already drafted, if you drafted this early, the league's crazy, but I feel sorry for them. So got him down a little bit. The next one I have is Michael Thomas, kind of in the normal 10 position. Le'Veon Bell I have as 11. And another guy I downgraded, which is number 9 in a lot, I put him at number 12, is Julio Jones. I think he's getting a little bit older. There's some good pass catchers on that team, as you know, with Sanu and Calvin Ridley now into his second year. And Julio Jones, he's kind of that quiet guy. He's a beast, but he's had some bad games. So I'm starting to predict a downward trend when it comes to Julio. Not significant. I moved him from 9 to 12, so I am a little bit down on him. I have Joe Mixon next. I have Todd Gurley next. People actually have him around this number. Not much of a change there. I think we'll talk a little bit more about Gurley later in the position battles. There's a little bit to worry about with him. But then next I have Juju Smith-Schuster. I have Nick Chubb next, which was a lot of people have him in the 20s. I have him at 16. Odell Beckham, I downgraded. A lot of people have him like in the 11, 12, 13 range. I have him at 17 because there's a lot of pass catchers in Cleveland. And there's Landry there. There's just not enough balls to go around, in my opinion. And I think, the running backs are going to get their fair share of business out there. I have Antonio Brown next. It's around the same area. Dalvin Cook I have next. Mike Evans is next. And at 21, I have James Conner. And he was more of a downgrade for me, too. A lot of people have him at 16, 15, 16. I think there's some other players on that Steelers that could steal some carries from him. Zach Ertz I have next. George Kittle, I have 23rd. It's kind of a little tight end streak there. And Keenan Allen, I have at 24th. Now, what I do want to say about these top 3 tight ends, there is a significant difference from Kittle to Ebron at 1.5 targets. Literally, these 3 tight ends should be drafted in the first 2 rounds, in my opinion, with the amount of targets they have, how much that you could uplift that position, possibly get some wide receiver value later. And then down, there's a big difference between that 1 tier and the 2 tier. What are your thoughts on that, Dave?
I definitely like your tight ends and how you rank them. I agree with you on the top 3 tight ends there. After that, there's quite a bit of a fall off after those top 3. So I agree with you on the 3 tight ends. But a couple guys I'd get into my top 24 would be Damian Williams. He is listed as a number 1 back for KC. At the end of the year and in the playoffs, he was a monster. They already claimed him as the number 1 receiver or the number 1 running back there. So I definitely like him in the top 24. Pat Mahomes, he's a guy I talked about quite a bit last year. I think he's going to be the number 1 quarterback off the board. If you're getting 6 points for a passing touchdown, I definitely think he should be up there in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, with 6 points, I agree with you. I was looking at PPR 4 point. Maybe I didn't make that clear, I guess, when we talked about that. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. If it's a 6 point lead, Patty's got to be there.
Even on 4, I still like Pat Mahomes at the end of the second round. If you're coming back and you're going to be on the swing, if it's a snake draft and you're not going to get a quarterback when it goes down and back up when he comes back to you, because it'll be like 4th or 5th round when it comes back to you. So I definitely like Pat Mahomes if you have one of those early picks, first or second round pick. I definitely like Pat Mahomes too on the way back up as your second or third rounder too, because at the beginning of the third round, that's going to be a steal for you, Pat Mahomes. Another guy I really like too is Kerryon Johnson. I think he's one of my sleepers this year. If you can get him kind of like a Pat Mahomes at the end of the second, beginning of the third, I would definitely scoop him up as well. And then Le'Veon Bell, I'm definitely downgrading him this year. There's a lot of red flags on him this year that I think are going to wreck his fantasy football season. He'll still have a solid year, but Adam Gase has been known to ruin fantasy football players' seasons. They average 59 plays per year over the last 3 years. And his running backs haven't been getting carries near the goal line, which I don't like as well, which they only combined for 10 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 years. Plus, Bell held out last year, and he got up to almost 260 pounds. So those are some just signs that I don't like going forward. Another guy, too, I'd downgrade on my list would be Todd Gurley. If healthy, he's still a top 5 back, I think. Going into your draft, find out as much as you can about his health. If he's healthy, he's definitely going to be a stud and a guy you want to ride into the playoffs, possibly. But he's another guy I devalued a little bit going into the drafts. Joe Mixon, another guy, too. He's ridiculously talented. One of my favorite guys the last couple of years. I drafted him almost all my leagues. They lost Johan Williams, though, to a season-ending injury and Clint Bolig to retirement. Their offensive line is very, very weak. That would be Cordy Glenn, who hasn't played a full season since 2015, will be starting then. Once he goes down, Mixon won't have anywhere to run. So I'm just really worried about the offensive line for the Bengals and for the Jets. The Jets have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. So definitely Le'Veon Bell is going to be devalued in my book. So I'd be taking them at the end of the first, beginning of the second, if that, maybe even a little bit lower than that.
You know, I can't disagree with you on the Bengals there. They drafted a lineman that's not even going to be playing this year in their first round. I thought that was a little strange. You know, here's the thing about Le'Veon Bell. Adam Gase didn't want him, and they paid him a lot of money, and the GM got fired actually a couple weeks later. So I thought that was very, very strange. But what I think on the good end of that is maybe Adam Gase is just going to be like, well, this is the guy that's paid so much. He better put up. We're going to pound the hell out of him. See what happens. I don't know. I can't remember how much guaranteed money in there. There's a lot, so they can't waste them this whole year. But if there's anything to think about, hopefully he still gets those carries because of what he's getting paid, and that's what Adam Gase thinks. Yeah, but the Jets, they got Osamele on guard. They picked up a few, and Tom Compton. They did pick up some guys from the from waivers, or sorry, from other teams